Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danon, will deliver a brief statement. Ambassador Danon is also joined by Ayelet Samarano, mother of Yonatan Samarano, who was kidnapped by an UNRWA worker on October the 7th. Ayelet will also deliver a brief statement. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Today, I stand with Ayelet Samarano, a mother who has endured every parent's worst nightmare. Ayelet's strength, her resilience, and her courage are beyond words, and it is an honor to be beside her today. She will speak in a moment about her beautiful son, Yonatan, who was kidnapped by an UNRWA employee during the October 7 massacre. While the United Nations continues its fixation on UNRWA, an organization which has demonstrated time and again that its infiltration by terrorists is beyond repair, the State of Israel is focused on bringing our people back home. Earlier today, in the Fourth Committee, I confronted Commissioner Lazzarini on his responsibility for UNRWA's infiltration by Hamas, its fostering of terrorism, and its total failure of accountability. I demanded that Commissioner Lazzarini resigned if he had any decency. Commissioner Lazzarini and all UN officials who signed that terrorist paycheck should look Ayelet in the eyes and explain how their employee came to kidnap her son, and they should ask for her forgiveness. It is time to see UNRWA for what it has become, an aid organization acting as a front for a sanctuary of terrorism. Enough is enough. The UN must move beyond this corrupt entity and all the terrorists it harbors. The page must turn now. Justice demands it, and the world cannot afford to ignore it any longer. We will not be silent until we will bring back all of our hostages. I would like Ayelet to say a few words.
"404 days. For 404 days, I haven't seen my son. For 404 days, I haven't slept or found a way to go on living, knowing he was kidnapped and vanished, as if the earth swallowed him. But the earth didn't swallow him. A terrorist posing as a humanitarian worker under the United Nations emblem kidnapped him. By posing, I don't mean he tricked anyone. He exploited the immunity of an international agency meant for aid, but used for terror. Taking responsibility is essential for any leader. 1, accept responsibility. 2, apologize to those harmed. 3, explain how they will prevent further harm. Mr. Lazzarini did none of this. Here I am, 404 days later, still waiting to hear something. Where is my son? Will the United Nations, under whose protection this terrorist acted, take responsibility? Will he respond and act to bring my son home? Mr. Lazzarini, you don't deserve to lead a humanitarian organization. You are not human. A human person would seek forgiveness from those they hurt, do everything to help the victim. But isn't that what UNRWA claims to be? An aid organization, right? So here is the question. What kind of aid? Does UNRWA serve its purpose? No. Billions of dollars have poured in 4 years, yet Gaza and its people suffer. Why? Because the aid goes to terrorism, not civilians. So I ask Mr. Lazzarini, how do you sleep at night? You raise funds from countries with good intentions, knowing the money fuels terrorism. My life has been shattered. I am a wounded woman. And the mothers you claim to help are also suffering because your failed leadership deepens their pain and fuels the terror that keeps mothers on both sides from raising their children in peace. That's all.
Ambassador,
Thank you.
are there questions?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Benno Schwingemann with the German press agency. Ambassador, ending UNRWA will leave a vacuum of work that UNRWA does now. How do you plan to go on? Who will take over the work that UNRWA does now in the future?
First, let's speak about the work that UNRWA is doing now. UNRWA are not taking a major part in the humanitarian efforts in Gaza. They cover about less than 15%. The mandate is to deal with education and healthcare, and they failed with that. And I think once we will get to the stage of talking about reconstruction of Gaza, after we bring back the hostages, I think then we will work with other NGOs who can do exactly the same thing, but to do it, not like UNRWA that failed for so many years.
Are you in talks with other NGOs already?
Sure, we speak with the NGOs, we speak with UN officials about that, and as I said many times, we are not against all the UN or all the UN organs. We are against the UN organs that actually allowed terrorism to foster.
Ambassador. Follow that up. As the occupying power, Israel is responsible for the Palestinians' care and welfare and the financial cost that goes along with that. So why should other NGOs take up that job if you kick out UNRWA when it is in fact the Israeli government's job to do it?
First, allow me to correct you. When you say occupying power, I want to remind you that we left Gaza completely in 2005. We disengaged. We gave the keys to the Palestinian Authority. Now we are in a war after we were attacked, and we act according to international law. That's why we provide humanitarian support, and we cooperate with many UN agencies. And I think you can speak with other organizations on the ground like UNICEF, WHO, World Food Bank, about cooperating with the Israeli authorities. We are willing to cooperate, but not with terrorists.
Ambassador, Shudojo with China Central Television. We know that UNRWA's operation is actually beyond Israel. So for Israel, is dismantling UNRWA the only option? And honestly, you said that Israel is now having wars at 7 fronts. Do you consider the UN the 8th front?
Absolutely not. We are a member state of the UN. We collaborate with many UN agencies. We are proud of our contribution to many fields, but we are at war. We are at war. We will win this war. We have no other choice. And I want to remind you all, like Yonatan, there are another 100 hostages today in Gaza. So we are focused on bringing them back, and then we can talk about cooperation and other issues.
So there's still a possibility that UNRWA still will be operate in Israel.
No, UNRWA, there was a legislation about them, but there are other agencies, other humanitarian efforts. You know, it's not holy that it has to be through UNRWA. UNRWA is a tool, a failed one, but we are willing to work with other agencies. Yes.
Mr. Ambassador, do you admit there are thousands of Palestinians were kidnapped from their homes while they are sleeping? Some doctors were kidnapped from hospitals.
No.
Some UN officials even were taken from the shelters. Do they count in your
No, I don't
analysis?
admit that. I'm not aware of any Palestinian who was kidnapped.
There are 11,000, sir, in custody. 400
No,
of them are children. Do
so,
you admit that?
You asked a question. Allow me to answer your question. We arrest terrorists, period. We arrested the Hamas terrorists who invaded or collaborated with Hamas, and we will continue to hunt them down. And I'm happy to tell you that we are moving forward. We are moving forward. Hamas today is not the same Hamas that was on October 7th. So no one was kidnapped. Terrorists, we either eliminate them or we arrest them. If we arrest them, they will appear in court and they will pay the price. Thank you. Last question, please.
Yes, Ambassador, you say that there are other organizations that help, that can help. What if, let's say, an organization like UN organization like UNICEF or WFP and so on will operate just, you know, you change a symbol on a card that's written UNRWA, you put UNICEF. Would you accept that situation? I mean, basically change name and what? So that nothing is waste of all the good things that UNRWA has been doing it?
So the main problem with UNRWA is the infiltration of Hamas into UNRWA. They took over their infrastructure, they took care of the salaries, they decided who is doing what. So another organization which will not allow Hamas to run it, we will be open to that. But we are not going to change the slogan and allow Hamas to continue its control. And for the people of Gaza, not only for our security, it will be better that there will be another entity that will serve the Palestinians and will not serve Hamas. Thank you very much.
Just a very quick follow-up. So are you saying that, let's say, somebody that's been working for UNRWA, all of a sudden is employed at UNICEF or any other organization, will not be able to operate for...
I'm talking about infiltration. We gave UNRWA lists of dozens of terrorists. They never replied. And you heard Lazarini today in the Fourth Committee. He said, I don't have the tools to investigate. You are hiring terrorists, and then you say you don't have the tools to investigate? What you are waiting for? For them to invade Israel again? So we need an organization which is committed for humanitarian work, period.
But
Thank you very much.
The names. UNRWA says they give you all their staff names in pre-October 7th. So if you're vetting their names and you're not finding Hamas-affiliated people among the list, how do you expect them to find
No,
them,
that's not correct, and I will conclude with that. The problem with UNRWA didn't start on October 7th. For years, we gave evidence and we spoke with the UN about what's happening with UNRWA, Gaza, mainly UNRWA Gaza, and unfortunately it was ignored. So it wasn't only October 7th. I think it is about time to move on to start a new page. Thank you very much.